Thank you for the blessed season we've just come through. Give us the strength to strengthen our hearts so we'll carry the values that you have taught us forth. Help us in this board to be understanding of the needs of our citizens and try to move forward with things that will enhance their lives. Lead us through the coming days. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do not have anyone signed up for informal comments. Anybody that just neglected to sign in that would like to speak, or? Okay, seeing none. Next, we have a public hearing on the rezoning case 2022-005 Stonebridge Enclave. And Bjorn?
Evening, Commissioners. Manager Matthews here to present background information on a proposed rezoning for a public hearing. This rezoning is CZ 2022-005 Stonebridge Enclave. It is a conditional rezoning, so there are conditions associated with it, including a site plan. This is a 44 acre parcel with 40 lots with 10,000 square foot average lot sizes, so it is a clustered development with an overall density of 1 unit per acre. This is a conditional rezoning, and the following conditions are shown, including site plan, vesting of development rights for 5 years, stormwater requirements, and decommissioning of the existing manufactured housing park that's on site, and 90-day notice for the residents of the park. These are the existing conditions along Rocky River Road, mainly undeveloped with agricultural uses to the south. You can see there's a residence, and the site itself, you can see the gravel drive leading into the residential portion of the site. This is the initial site plan that was reviewed and was evaluated by the planning board in their November meeting, where they made a recommendation for denial. This represents a 50-unit development at 1.25 units per acre. At that time, staff also recommended denial because the density was higher than the land use plan recommended. Since that time, the applicant has reduced the lot count by 10, which reduces the density down to 40, and 1 unit per acre is still essentially the same layout with a stub out to the north for future road connections. Otherwise, the development gets its access to the existing Stonebridge development. This site is partially developed. You can see the lots and buildings that existed in the past few years. That lot count has been decreasing, however. The rest of the property surrounding it are undeveloped. The area to the south with the gray hatched area is the golf course for Stonebridge, and then there are residential lots that are approved surrounding the golf course. In terms of the environmental features, there's a stream paralleling the northern edge of the site. Otherwise, it's largely wooded with no wetland or other features. Zoning for the entire area is RA40. You'll note that Stonebridge is also zoned RA40, and that's because it was developed under smart growth from the 1990s and early 2000s. Mineral Springs is close, but not immediately adjacent to this parcel. In terms of transportation, Rocky River Road carries approximately 3,600 cars per day. This site would get access ultimately from 3 separate roads because this site has access to Rocky River and Doster and Old Waxhaw Monroe ultimately upon build out. No additional road improvements are recommended or required as a part of this development. The land use plan, NC 75, has an employment corridor overlay, and then to the south is rural residential, so this straddles those. In terms of public school impact, this comes from the school system. regarding utilization of the existing school cluster. Union County Water is a consideration here. It can be served from a network perspective, but there is no allocation for it for the 12-mile basin. And it is served by a pump station, so that would be a follow-on decision per Board of Commissioner policy that would be impacted here for any upsizing of the pump station as a part of this site. Public feedback, community meeting was held in October. There were no attendees. We haven't received any phone calls or email comments specifically about this rezoning, and no comments at the planning board meeting conducted in November. And because it wasn't immediately adjacent to Mineral Springs, we did not solicit feedback from them. In terms of the staff report and recommendations, this is based on the new site plan. The negatives is that it will displace 8 units of affordable housing, and the positives are that provided utilities are available, it can be served by Union County, and that the nearby schools do have capacity. The density is similar to the existing Stonebridge development, as well as with the comprehensive plan, and this particular part of the development will ultimately have access to 3 separate roads for distributing traffic. So we recommend approval based on the revised plan. Planning board did not take this up for reconsideration, so the existing recommendation of denial still exists. And the applicant and their engineer are here to answer any questions you may have.
I'd like to come forward.
Great, thank you and good evening, Chairman Rushing, members of the board. My name is Donna Cook, and I'm a representative of True Homes. Our offices are located at 2649 Breckenridge Boulevard here in Monroe. And I'm here to present to you a new site plan. This is a site plan that's been updated since we were before the planning board. And as we go through this site plan, I'd like to highlight just a couple of different areas and benefits of the site plan. The first is that this site plan contains 40 lots on approximately 44 acres. That brings our density to 1 unit per acre. This is less than what was presented at the planning board. This site also has almost 66% of open space. You can see up here at the top along the north property line, we have provided for that 100-foot stream buffer. We do have a right-of-way that's proposed that will connect this parcel to any future development to the north. And we've also, just to note that there is not any access to this site from Rocky River Road. All access to the site is through the existing Stonebridge community. This site is really going to be part of the larger part of the community of Stonebridge. So as we look at the next slide here, we can see this is the proposed Stonebridge. These areas in green are the golf course. Areas in blue are existing areas of development, and those blue areas are both built out. The areas in purple are proposed in future phases of Stonebridge. This area here is currently under development. As we move through development and construction, once we've completed this area, we'll continue down into the area that's shown by the pointer, and then over toward this way and out toward Rocky River Road. The proposed site is this area in orange. Again, we expect that this area is to be a continuation of the Stonebridge subdivision. And so it will be very much similar in development and development style. Here are some photographs of the Stonebridge community. You can see the streetscape here. This just gives you an idea for the feel and the flavor of the community. And this is what we would be proposing for the enclave as well. Our next slide is just some examples of the homes that we would be building. These are again, the same homes that are currently being built in Stonebridge community. The design, the variation in materials, variations in the roof lines, and these homes all have hardy plank siding. So that's what I have for you. Just to, in summary, this plan has been updated since our planning board and the recommendation that was being given by the planning board. We feel like we've addressed the concerns that were raised by the planning board. Staff is recommending approval of this, and we respectfully request your approval tonight as well. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Could you go back to page 5?
That one?
How many, I think you said the purple area is an area that is under development?
Yes.
How many homes are under development in that section?
Right. I'm going to have our engineer come forward as well to address some of that. I don't have all those lot counts.
Good evening, Frances Yarbrough with Seaman Whiteside. The purple lots show 235 lots that are currently permitted and under construction.
Thank you.
Question, please.
Yes.
What will be the proposed lot size for this new section? Is it,
They're going to be similar in size, I think.
not in, what's the actual size?
The average lot size is around 10,000 square feet.
Okay. And and earlier it mentioned too that displacement of residents that have 90 days.
Yes.
Is this the mobile home park that was,
Yes.
how many residents are going to be displaced?
I believe there in the past have been 8 sites. Currently, only 4 of those sites are occupied.
Okay. Now, aren't they closer to Rocky River?
They are.
Actually, the entrance, so is this current footprint that you're proposing there going to actually overlay their property?
This footprint does not overlay their property, however, because of the design and approval, that those will be, the mobile homes will have to be removed.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one. Pump station has been discussed. Where would the pump station need to be placed, and is there already approval for a pump station for the areas in purple?
All right. Again, I'm going to have our engineer come up to address that.
So there is an existing pump station under construction in this area here that's been permitted for the 235 lots in purple. It would be able to serve this site from an elevation perspective. Any upgrades to that pump station would come before your board for approval.
So with that few of lots, so it would take a bigger pump station than it's already been approved?
It's unlikely that it would require a larger pump station. It might need some upgrades to some of the pumps, some of the pieces to that existing pump station, but the pump station itself, the site, would not need to be enlarged.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Have these sites been accepted for sewage capacity?
You mean permitted through Public Works?
Yeah, have they been accepted and you paid your fee for the capacity?
So Bjorn, I might need your help on that. I believe half of the capacity fees are paid up front, or Jim?
This is kind of a group effort here. I honestly don't know the status of whether all of them have been paid or whether just a fraction have. But the site has been approved. It's gone through planning, and a good number of it has already been platted.
But that doesn't mean the sewer capacity has been approved.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I mean,
So this is a development was approved in the past. So the way that we did development approvals in the past is you could actually pay for your capacity in portions. And that was the way this was accomplished. So the capacity has been accounted for that in purple, not necessarily the 40 additional lots. That has
That's
not
my
been
point.
done. So that in purple has been accounted for, but not the section that they're talking about.
Okay.
any further questions? All right, thank you very much. Okay. Next, we have staff recognition, and I believe Andy's coming up with that.
Do we have any public comments?
Got any public comments?
Sorry about that. Now close the public hearing, and next we have staff recognition. Andrew?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, Interim Manager Matthews. Each year, the North Carolina American Water Works Association, Water Environment Association conducts a conference where a number of different issues are addressed amongst utility professionals. One of the things that occurs at these conferences is a competition, and our people historically have always done well in these competitions. We had teams compete for hydrant hysteria and for operations challenge. First, I'll talk about hydrant hysteria. Unfortunately, the folks that were involved in these competitions were not able to be here tonight for a variety of reasons. However, I'd like to recognize the women's team. That's composed of Michelle McCarver from our office and Beth Belk from Emergency Services, coached by Justin Hunley. They finished in first place. You might recall, at least for the commissioners that were on the board last summer, they had competed in the Nationals and had won first place in the Nationals. So this will earn them a second trip to the Nationals to compete for the national award. We also had the men's team compete, and they also finished in first place. So the men was Justin Hunley. It was, just have to check my notes here for a second. Jordan Helms was the coach, and Jimmy Gillian was on the men's team. So they also finished first. Their time was 1:16, putting the hydrant together. The women's time was 1:52. Now, if you understand what it takes to put the hydrant together, they basically have to come off the 90-degree elbow at the base and then fully assemble a fire hydrant. So they have to put the barrel down, they have to put all the caps on, the ports, the nut at the top, and they have to do this so that it perfectly aligns and is plumb and true, and everything is tight on the hydrant. And it's timed, and any kind of mistake they make in the process is counted against them. It counts off as time. So to get these times as fast as they do it is actually remarkable for both teams, particularly for the women who do this. And I'll also point out for the women that both are admin specialists. These are not women who do this in the field. They actually are office people, and they just take an interest in doing this and have done remarkably well over the years competing for Union County in these events. So our hats are off to them, and we certainly enjoy the recognition they're receiving. The other team that I'd like to talk to you about tonight is Operations Challenge. And I'd like those folks to come forward at this time. So if you guys would come on up. So this is Hayden Hunter. He's one of our crew leaders. Jamie Hargett, also a crew leader. Austin Medlin, he's a wastewater treatment operator at 12 Mile. Brett Fisher is also a crew leader, and John Jordan is the supervisor at 12 Mile. So these folks competed in a competition called Operations Challenge. And what this involves is 5 different events. These are all timed again. And they have one event where they have to actually repair a sewer line, cut a piece off of one section of pipe, install it in a bad section of another piece of pipe, and then also reset calibration to take an automatic sample in that particular site, in that particular pipe. So that's one event they have to do that's timed. The second event is a process control event. So they actually are given a problem at a wastewater treatment plant, and they have to do the chemical analysis and all the data retrieval and acquisition of what exactly is the problem at the plant, and then to come up with a solution under a timed sequence. They also have a safety event where there's a person that has succumbed to fumes down in a confined space. They have to set up a tripod, do the whole confined space entry procedure, go down into the space, rescue the person that succumbed to fumes. Of course, they're checking their atmospheric conditions before they do that, pull the person out, go back down in the hole, and repair the device that was originally broken that they had to fix, and then extract themselves out of it. There's also a lab event where they have to do some chemistry. They're given some problems with total suspended solids and total dissolved solids in the wastewater stream, and they have to figure out what's going on with it so that they can correct the issue in the plant process. The other event that they compete in is a maintenance event where they actually have a pump that has failed. And again, they have to lock out, tag out the electrical controls, with a hoist, bring the pump out of its chamber, bring it over to a table, tear the pump down, figure out what the problem is, put the pump back together, put it back where in the wet well where it belongs, and then redo the lockout, tag out, and make sure that the pump runs. So these different events all contribute to a total time sequence that they have to compete under. Any mistakes or time is taken away from them. So our team here competed back in December at the conference, coming in to second place at the event. So they have competed in the past, they have always done well, and would just like to congratulate these folks for the good job they did, and the fact that they represent all of our employees. So when you think about what happens out in the field, I mean, these folks do exceptionally well in these competitions, but we have over 100 people that do this every day for all of our citizens, or at least our ratepayers, the folks that are on our system. So they're just one example of what we do here in Union County Water. So we'd like to thank them for their good work, and if we could, Mr. Chairman, if we could get a picture with you and them, that would be great.
Okay. And is that their trophy or the?
That is their trophy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
which one of you big boys gonna hold that trophy? If the other county commissioners would please stand up behind and so that you have a picture as well. It's come to my attention that we gotta even this out. So the commissioners, make sure you can see everybody, okay?
Yep. Commissioner Brian Helms, Ms. Merrill, Commissioner Merrill, can you scoot that? There we go. One more. Thank you.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Good job.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Guys, a word of advice I'm sure you've gotten before. But living on the farm, we just don't bite our fingernails. Same thing with you guys. Be careful about biting your fingernails. Good job. Okay, we've got the consent agenda next. Any items that any commissioner wants to take off the consent agenda for discussion?
Make a motion to approve consent as presented.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, next we go to business. First, we have the Union Mecklenburg County line discussion. And we have Van Harrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Hope you all had a great new year. The item that we are bringing to you tonight is the culmination of about a year of research and discussion internally and analysis on issues along the Union-Mecklenburg County line. This goes back to, it dates back sometime, the first plat for the most troublesome area of the line was dated in 1995. It was the first plat recorded related to the Shanamar subdivision. There are issues up and down the line, but this one area concentrated around Shanamar is primarily the, if we will, the guilty party, so to speak. So in the 1995 plat, I don't have a copy of this map up here. We've got some others. There was no county line indicated in that plat. It was just a handful of lots and some street right-of-ways. In 1997, an additional plat was recorded that showed a jog in the county line that there's no indication as to why that jog was there, and that's what we're going to get into. That's what's led to this discussion. The statutory guidance for this is 153A18. I'm not going to read this to you. We referenced it in the agenda abstract, but we've got it here, so if you want a copy of this, you've got all the language. This was provided to us by the Department of Public Safety from the state related to the work that they do across North Carolina and helping counties resolve county line matters. Basically, it's providing guidance that allows counties that, if there's a disputed boundary, in summary, just allows the counties that are affected to request assistance from the state in establishing the correct county line between the two jurisdictions. The process, back up. The process that we go through with this is requires a written request from the adjacent counties to the state requesting their assistance in resolving the matter. The original survey, or most recent survey, was completed in the early 2000s. And at that time, no action was taken on the county line because there was a disputed area, and neither board adopted the line at that point in time. In the process, the counties, if so choose to do so, appoint a special commissioner, whether it's a county commissioner, an elected official, a department head such as GIS director, some counties have been tax administrator, to facilitate and supervise the work that's completed. There's research and field surveys performed, a preliminary information plats provided to the counties for review. At that point, we began a series of public meetings, and then final plats are provided to the counties once all discussion has been finalized and the plats have been finalized and agreed to by the counties. Once the plats are approved, they're recorded in the County Register of Deeds office as well as Secretary of State's office. The statute has changed in this process. Prior to 2000, and that's why we're here today, prior to 2017, I believe, if the counties did not take action, everything died. Nothing was changed with regards to the county line. In 2017, the General Assembly changed the statute so that once both counties have requested and the information has been delivered to the counties, there's a 12-month ticking clock. And at that point, it becomes final whether the counties take action or not. But that only occurs after the information has been given to both counties, and both counties have requested assistance. To provide just some high-level summary information as to how that affects Union County property owners, these are properties that are located in Union County that either partially or fully are taxing Union and or Mecklenburg and could potentially be moved to Mecklenburg either partially or fully, depending on where they're situated along the line. So a total of 267 parcels up and down the entire border are impacted. 223 of those are residential, 36 commercial, 5 farms, and you've got your government schools and churches and other exemptions that are impacted there. As far as a detailed breakdown, 38 parcels that are currently being Union County taxes that are currently completely in Mecklenburg County, meaning we're taxing them, they're using county services, but they are, if you go on the state's line, the state survey is dictated as the line and surveyed, 38 of them are actually located in Mecklenburg County, and we should not be taxing them. 133 parcels where Union County taxes the majority of the parcel, or the majority of the improvement is located in Union County. You have 39 parcels where the majority of the improvement is located in Mecklenburg County. 13 parcels, Union County tax parcels, where the majority of the improvement is questionable as to which county holds the majority. You'll see those along Shanamar, some around Weddington, and there's methodologies that the counties go through to figure out which county is going to take responsibility for taxing that house. We're not going to split the house. There are situations where we may have a small amount of land, or they may have a small amount of land, but one or the other of us is going to have the entire improvement. There are 44 parcels that are Union County tax parcels that are land only, and so there's no children affected from a school standpoint, residents affected from where they live and vote and that kind of thing. Total estimated value loss potentially for Union County is $29.9 million, which and if you look at our entire tax base, it's a very small number. Mecklenburg County summary, and I'll qualify this information. Our staff use the public-facing information from Mecklenburg County's website. We've been working with their office, the tax office and GIS office in Mecklenburg County, to get cleaner data. They are in the process of a revaluation in Mecklenburg, so the values are in flux, but this is based on their existing values as of 1/1/21. That's the number of parcels from Mecklenburg side that could be impacted. And their estimated value loss is $12 million. So the net effect, and that's based on their old values, the net effect of our value loss, if you factor in what we could gain from Mecklenburg, is roughly $17 million of a loss from our tax base. We went a little more granular with these numbers. From a fire district standpoint, Henry Bridge will lose a little over $24 million in value. The town of Stallings, it says it's indicated that they will lose 25, but they really wouldn't because they tax across Mecklenburg County's line anyway. So there is a portion of the town of Stallings that is already in Mecklenburg, so they're not really losing anything, but of the $29 million that the county would lose, 25 of that is situated within the town of Stallings. The next few slides are some maps that indicate the county line. And we've got this broken up in segments just for ease of discussion. This is the southern part of the boundary, and 6 Mile Creek. Typically from Providence Road south, the county line runs with the center of the creek bed. And that's in the descriptions at the state level, along with the practice that we've historically had in our office. This section of the line is from Highway 16 to Highway 74. The yellow lines, I believe, are Union parcels that are affected by the monumented line, and the purple are MEC parcels that are affected by the monumented line. So you can see there's some back and forth across the line all the way up and down. This next slide is from Highway 74 to Lawyers Road, and there you can see that group of yellow. That's the Shanamar neighborhood. You can see where there's discrepancies, more significant discrepancies along that portion of the line. And then this is from Lawyers Road to Cabarrus, and there's also some issues up in that area that would be resolved if action is taken to establish a line and correct the discrepancies in tax data. One of the things that we know, issues that we know are affected are police and fire coverage, which Union County, you can see based on the map here, the green dots indicate that we already provide police and fire coverage to these properties, so there should be no change or no impact from that standpoint with this. The bigger impact is going to be voting and school attendance zones. The shaded area is the Union County school coverage based on some GIS information that we were able to obtain from the schools. That does not coincide with the jog that we're taxing in the line. You can see there's additional properties that we're not sure why, that attend Union County schools that are outside of the area that we're taxing based on the information we've been able to gather. That's something else that would have to be part of the discussion going forward and resolving the issues. I've got Kristen Jackman, she's here tonight to speak to it from an election standpoint, if you have any questions related to that process. But this is just, again, high-level discussion, and what we're asking tonight is that you consider adopting a resolution requesting the state to assist in establishing the line and holding the necessary public hearings to notify property owners. With that, I'll take any questions you have.
Any questions?
Yes, I've got
Commissioner
one.
Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is going to take two counties, correct?
Yes.
So we're one part of a whole. So essentially, Mecklenburg County would have to be in agreement with this as well. Is that also correct?
That's correct. Talking to staff there today, there's a potential that they're taking this to their board on January 18th for consideration. They're meeting with the management team in Mecklenburg County tomorrow, I believe, to determine how they move forward. Both counties are at a point where we know this needs to be resolved. It's a 25-year-old problem that we're trying to tackle and figure out the best way to do that. There are other parties involved, such as the school boards in both counties, that we'd have to have meetings and discussions with to see how they want to handle the attendance zones. Just like other internal redistricting, do you have grandfather clauses that allow students to, there's a whole myriad of solutions there that can be provided. We just got to get to that point.
And you mentioned that if we did nothing based off of the General Assembly's moves in 2017, that we initiated a ticking clock, or did I misunderstand that?
Once both counties have requested assistance and the state provides the preliminary plats to the counties, that starts the ticking clock. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Again, what tax, we're a gainer or a loser on this one?
It's a net loss at this point. Mecklenburg County's, it's hard to tell from a Mecklenburg County perspective, because when we bring these properties in, we would value them based on our schedule of values. When they take our properties in, they're going to change the values based on their schedule of values, and they're going through a revaluation this year. So the houses that are currently in Shantamara, they're valued at $500,000 currently in Union County. They could be more or less once they get into Mecklenburg. But it's at this point, it's a preliminary estimate of $17 million net loss.
Okay. Do we have, what are our concerns, again, based on, and you said Kristen was here to answer, the election issues. These people have been voting in the wrong county on both sides for many, many election cycles.
I'm going to defer to Kristen on that. We've had some discussion about it, but she's the expert. So.
Yes. One of the duties of our office is to ensure that when a resident's registered, that they're assigned the correct jurisdictions. And to do that, we keep an updated geocode database. It has all the streets in the county. When a municipality annexes property, they share that with us. We add that information. We receive the 911 street list and any new subdivisions. We enter those street ranges, odd, even, high, low, and the jurisdictions associated with them: school district, House, Senate, congressional, judicial. So when a person registers to vote, their address, when it's entered, it links them to those correct jurisdictions for that particular address. So when they vote on, if they vote on election day, they know which precinct to go to, and then they receive the correct ballot. To ensure we keep this updated, since it's constantly changing and correct, the state sends us a weekly audit so we can see any discrepancies. We've been aware of this for several years since I've been at the office and discussed it with the tax office and with the state. But currently, we have 93 registered voters that we have in Union County that the state audit is showing they belong to Mecklenburg County. There may be more addresses, but those do not show up on our audit unless there's a person registered there. So we have 97 total. 93 of those are in Shanamara, which is in the town, they're all in the town of Stallings, School District 4, House 69, Senate 35. So it's gone well so far. We haven't had any kind of protest. You know, the only thing that for elections, well, first of all, we're required to register them if they're being taxed here. I cannot refuse to register them if they're being taxed in Union County. We do have some back and forth about that occasionally. People that live in the area don't understand that, and we have discussed it with Mecklenburg elections. But as of now, it seems to be stable, basically, and the only thing that could happen on our end is if there's a close contest. Say Town of Stallings has a close contest and a voter or candidate could file a voter challenge, they could file an election protest, possibly those people aren't eligible to vote. It influenced the outcome of the election. If that was to happen, that would go to a hearing with the with our Board of Elections. If it's appealed, it would go to the State Board of Elections, and the remedy would be, what could be a new election, recount to have those voters removed. But that's pretty in-depth for this issue that we have here, because we are required to register them since they're being taxed here.
Have we had any elections that, in the municipal level or the county level, that could be affected by that?
Stallings has those. All 93 of those are in that municipality.
So have they had any elections within that margin?
There's been some that have been, a couple of, they have districts. It's not, it's residency districts where the candidates file according to residents, but to their residents, but the entire town votes. So there's been some of those council members for specific districts that have been kind of close. And it all depends on the turnout too. They usually turn out about 10 or 15% for a municipal election, and I believe they have about 12,000 registered voters, 12 or 14,000, somewhere in that range.
Do we have any candidates that live in, any elected officials in Union County that live in those districts, in that area? Specifically in Mecklenburg County now, if we go along.
I have not looked at that. I have those addresses, but I have not looked to see who's registered at those addresses.
Yeah, that might be a good thing to come up with soon. Because especially if we tell somebody that
Right.
we're giving them to Mecklenburg County.
And then we'll have candidate filing for municipalities in July,
Right.
starting in July.
Is this primarily revolved around Shanamara, or,
Yes.
but you mentioned Weddington and other municipalities earlier. You mentioned Fairview. So I'm a little confused because it seems to constantly go back to Shanamara. So 2 questions. How many homes will we lose from Union County to Mecklenburg in Shanamara?
Get back to that slide.
And the second part to that question is how many other homes in other areas that we're not talking about, that haven't been discussed tonight? How many other homes would we be losing with this proposal?
In total, from the entire length of the county boundary, there's 223 residential properties that are impacted.
Okay.
As to the specific number in Shannamara, I'm thinking, keep in mind, this includes the house along with properties that are just land. So that, from that standpoint, even though we may have a house that's in Union, some of the lot could be in Mecklenburg, it could shift, it may not shift.
Can we go back to that
Yeah.
slide? It showed the lots in Shannamara. Keep going.
This is it.
That one. This
So
is Shannamara?
That's correct. So this red line here is the line that the state recognizes as the county line, based on their survey. The purple line is what we're taxing. So every lot within the purple line, between the purple and the red, would shift into Mecklenburg. You can see there's also some up here that are partially split. Historically, the way the property is handled, the side of the county line in which the owner's bedroom, and this sounds, I won't say kooky, but that's a scientific word, but that's a historical precedence in this field. Wherever the owner's bedroom resides, that is the county that taxes that property. So
I've always heard it was where the mailbox is located.
no, it's where the owner's bedroom is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different.
And so
Okay.
from the standpoint of, we can get that number to solidify. We were looking at just a summary of data, but this is the majority of them here. There are some others that we've shifted before around Weddington as far as who's going to tax them because of where the line falls. But this is the primary culprit in this boundary issue.
Any other questions? In the future, and I remember this with Shannamara coming up years ago, the concern with something being in Union County and in Mecklenburg County at the same time, if we've got any parcels anywhere near this, we need to be real cautious about approvals on rezonings, things of that nature, and so does our towns. Because if you're saying it's by the bedroom and half the house is in one county and half the house is in another county, maybe we need to be a little bit more cautious with that on the county level and the municipal level. I can see a lot of people being upset about this.
It's going to be a difficult discussion because you are impacting taxes, you're impacting voting, you're impacting school districts.
Schools, yeah.
And
They will be, so they you said something earlier about some grandfathering or something. These people, like right now in Shannamara, those students, the part that's in Mecklenburg County now, do they currently go to school in Mecklenburg County?
Mm-hmm.
the ones beyond the shaded area do. So if you look at the area closest to 485, they're already in Mecklenburg County. Anything inside of the shaded area, based on the information we've been able to ascertain from the school's GIS data, that those houses are attending Union County.
So I know along Highway 218, we have neighborhoods that are split between Mecklenburg and Union County. Why is that not part of the discussion tonight?
Anything along
Were
the
they
line,
not affected?
Anything along the line would be impacted. This was just a primary area because this is the area that deviates from the state line the most.
I mean, it's another golf course, so
Right.
I'm just a little bit surprised.
So if we go, let me go back a slide.
So I'm wondering how many of those homes are going to be affected?
I can't tell from this map where 218
Highway
is.
218 and like Rock Hill Church Road.
Yeah, I'm thinking those have already been resolved in the past, but
Okay.
that would be part of this analysis. And so any property that's impacted by the county line adoption or change would be part of the hearing process and the notification process. And it's a combination of efforts between us, we would enlist Liz's office, communications, and the state would be heavily involved in it.
Any other questions? And you're looking for a motion to do what?
Our request tonight was simply to request, adopt a resolution requesting assistance from the state to assist Union and Mecklenburg County to adopt the accurate county line based on the state surveyed line. And then we can have further discussion, however you want to handle that. I'm at your service.
I do have another question. How was this initiated?
At some point.
I mean, if this has been going on since 1995, why are we talking about it in 2023? Like, what happened? What brought us here tonight?
It was brought up to the tax office under previous administrators, and at some point it was brought to the counties in the early 2000s. Both Mecklenburg and Union, neither board adopted it at that time. For whatever, I wasn't party to those discussions, not sure why that happened. It was brought back up to us as our transition in as administrator in 2017. We were in the process of building a software system and preparing for reval, and you don't want to do this in conjunction or with a reval coming in at the same time. So the timing of this, we talked to Mecklenburg, they didn't want to do it in 19. They've got one going now. It's not going to happen for this year, so it doesn't affect the reval. And then we've got a gap, we've got a 1-year gap between their reappraisal this year and ours in 2025. And that was the soonest window that we could get it in between the two counties. And so we've been discussing it for roughly 9 to 12 months at this point, doing all the analysis and work, trying to get to a point of discussion with the board.
So if we pass this resolution and Mecklenburg doesn't, what's
Nothing
the
happens.
effect?
Nothing happens.
My fellow commissioners, I'm willing to wait to see what Mecklenburg County does.
I don't support it.
You want to wait? I make the motion that we see what Mecklenburg County does first and then decide where to go from there.
Okay.
Any discussion on the motion?
I'll just say that I'm inclined to support that motion. I think that there's some question marks, as you mentioned, regarding school districts as well. I think that that's a huge concern there. And I believe that that's probably our best course of action.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I'm not opposed to deferring consideration, seeing what Mecklenburg does with this first.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the US 74 Monroe corridor study recommendations, and that's Bjorn.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Manager Matthews. This is a follow-up from the informational presentation at your second December meeting, where we gave a background of the work that we had done over the past 12 months at your direction to look at options for our existing US 74 Express bus route. And so this is a much shorter presentation. Background, the service has been in existence for nearly 20 years. Service has been pretty stable, although in the mid-2000s there was Marshville extension of the service. We pay for half of it, CATS pays for the other half, ridership is down, costs, like everything, go up, and we have an opportunity cost here because we have other services. So we looked at options, and we have 3 recommendations of strategies. You can choose 0, 1, 2, 3 of the strategies, and the results are based on hearing from our stakeholders committee, which included all of the municipalities up and down the corridor. We have feedback from each of them. They vary in terms of whether they want enhanced service or just focusing on the existing demand response service that's provided by Union County. And we have a lot of assumptions and facts that help inform the service parameters of these types of services that would be considered. And so getting to this slide, which is really the meat of the presentation, we have 6 strategies. The ones in green are recommended, and we can go into more detail on them, or the red ones, the ones that are not recommended, we can go into more detail on those. But we do ask for action ideally tonight or second best would be at your next meeting later in January in order for us to be able to communicate this to CATS in time for any changes to take effect by July 1st, if your intent is to implement specifically the number 2 strategy on maintaining the express bus service with some changes that are recommended. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, drill down into specific scenarios.
Anybody have a question, Mr. Helms?
Bjorn, I've been asking for years what the average ridership of these daily buses. I haven't got an answer yet.
Which round trip per day, number of one-way trips on each bus that goes to downtown and comes
You
back?
got 3 buses going back and forth, right? Is it 2 people average rider, or is it 10 people, or is it what?
Right now, we run 2 in the morning going in and 2 in the morning coming back. We have somewhere between 30 and 40 people. So divide that out, you're talking about 8 to 10 people per bus per day.
Okay.
Commissioner, which commissioner do we have on that committee? The Transportation Committee?
Well, I was on CARTPO and then was involved in some of the discussions on this in the prior board.
Any thing that you see that stands out to you, or?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of inclined personally to the microtransit solution. I like that a lot. I also think that, Monroe has expressed some, some interest in helping to fund solutions beyond just the express bus service, and I think that that matters a lot to me as a commissioner in terms of, embracing a solution. If we've got at least one municipal partner that's, willing to write some checks with us to help, deliver a service. In terms of an express bus service, I mean, we've been running that how long? About
Almost 20 years.
almost 20 years now. So it is a big deal, I think, getting rid of it, but we're also seeing declining service, declining use and increasing cost. So I personally am not inclined to continue it unless we can get it integrated with Matthews Express. So that's my 2 cents.
County Manager?
I don't know if, I didn't recall if Bjorn pointed this out, but these are actually sort of a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term solutions. The short-term could be that you maintain the express bus service with Matthews Express, and that be sort of the short-term, get CATS to go along with that. Midterm would be sort of expand your operation hours. How much would that cost if you expanded your operation hours? Do you want to do that? And then long-term is, how does microtransit work? And how much will that cost? And are you willing to fund that? And I think, they're looking for one or all or some, direction from you on any one of these 3 that are recommended.
And short-term, could we, contract with CATS or Matthews Express just to continue the express bus while we're applying for the grants, to work towards micro transit?
That is correct. And the microtransit is not a substitute for the express bus service.
Mm-hmm.
But the express bus service, what is proposed in scenario 2 or strategy 2 is that we would get some cost savings because it would be a streamlined service integrated with the one that guns to Matthews, which is already run by CATS. And we'd also have some reduction in cost because Monroe would be paying for a portion of the local cost. So it would be a significantly lower cost per year, with that money then reinvested in Union County transportation operations. Then the midterm scenario or strategy that Manager Matthews talked about was expanding hours of operation. We would have to look at what are the options to, say do it countywide versus having zones, or only having certain parts of the county per day of the week as additional service, and bring that back. And then microtransit, by saying you recommend it, it's not going to happen July 1st of 2023. What it does is it sends a signal to Monroe, to us as staff, to Monroe, and potentially to Wingate to say, hey, when you're looking to do this, we're an open partner to explore this further. That's really what that does.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And I do want to let you know that I have been contacted by some of our industrial users, and part of their challenge is with getting their workforce to their operations. And so they're very interested in some way that the county can be involved in providing transit to their workforce. Obviously, we don't do that now. Microtransit could potentially be a source of that at some point in the future, but there's a cost associated with it. And I think if the board has any interest, it would be at least beneficial to explore it and then bring that information back to you, and you can make some future decision. But again, that's up to you if you want to explore that.
Any other questions or Bjorn? Comments, concerns? So we have about 30-some people per day, and is this a parking
Well,
lot?
those are one-way trips, so really you have half that number. Assume
So 15 people a
15
day.
to 16 per day are going in the morning, 15 to 16 are coming back in the evening.
Okay, and they park and ride,
That's correct.
any particular place? I mean, where they park?
We have two. One is at the mall in Monroe, and it used to be the Kmart until the Kmart went away, and then the other is the Food Line in Indian Trail, both on US 74.
Okay. How many actually ride from Indian Trail? Do we know that number?
It's 50-50. It's a
So,
split.
50/50. And the municipalities that were asked to participate,
Indian Trail and Monroe, because that's where the stations
And
were located,
Indian
or the
Trail
stops were
Express.
located.
Indian Trail, since they're half, they expressed interest in participating,
No, they did not,
only Monroe.
and they did.
Now, you were saying that we had some employers, I mean, do we have people coming from Mecklenburg to Union on the line?
No, these were folks that were either in the eastern part of the state trying to come to our industrial sites, or possibly Anson County. Obviously, that's outside of our jurisdiction, but certainly on the eastern side of the county.
Anson County, they have their own transportation services, correct?
They do. It's similar to Union County Transportation, so it's dial-a-ride type of service.
So just like we're taking our employees to, or our workers to Mecklenburg,
No, they do not have commuter type of service. They have service that's more human service, where people to doctor trips or shopping trips.
but if somebody wanted to ride in there, and I'm
They
probably,
certainly could. It's just not, it's typically not done for that purpose.
right. Okay, are we making any other trips to Mecklenburg County? I know we're going to the doctor's office in,
VA
huh?
facilities.
Yeah. So we do have some going out with our current Union County
Yes.
Transportation to medical facilities, places like that in
Yes.
Mecklenburg. Well, if half our riders are coming from Indian Trail, they're not interested
Interested in what?
in participating.
No, this was the town of Indian Trail that wasn't interested.
Right. And only Monroe's interested?
City of Monroe was committed to helping pay for the local match of the service, yes.
What's the cost to us again?
Well, the cost to the county is approximately $140,000. Half of that's paid for by federal grants, and now we're down to 70. So we would potentially ask Monroe for $15,000 to $25,000, depending on how we calculated that number.
So $70,000 per year for Union County's portion, and and that's, give me the number for yearly trips.
Yearly trips?
Yeah, because I guess you'd
It'd
have to take,
be, I mean, that's only like 4,000 or 5,000 trips per year right now.
and so what's that number? Is it a good deal or not?
Is what a good deal?
Is it a good deal for us to keep doing it, or?
Yes, if we're able to, if we were to just keep doing what we're doing right now, no, it's not a good deal. But with Monroe helping to pay for it, and with us getting a more efficient route because it's integrated with the Matthews one, yes, it is.
Bjorn, what's the likelihood of CATS being able to integrate with Matthews Express? Do we have any kind of information on that?
We had a pretty good meeting with them back in November when we were finalizing these recommendations to make sure we were bringing you viable options, and they said yes, it was.
Anybody want to make any motions on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt option 2 with Matthews Express in the short term while we continue to evaluate the other possibilities.
Does that sound good to you?
That gives us direction.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All the, Richard Long, you got that concerned look on your face?
No, I'm just looking down, I'm just looking down the
I
line.
have a question.
Vice Chair.
So I would like to confirm that option number 2 is that where we're currently spending $70,000 per year?
That's correct.
With declining ridership and increasing expenses
That's correct.
with approximately 15 people?
As of right now, yes.
But the current service does not include Matthews Express. It's just 74.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that's, yeah, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Richardhouse. I mean, that's a good starting point. We can always revisit this, correct?
That's correct.
And try to find a better way and a solution. And one thing I've heard recently is that there's going to be an increase in the tolls on the Monroe Expressway.
That's correct. That's baked into their budget for that facility, so that's an annual. It's going to happen in January 1st of 2024 as well.
Which could increase the ridership if I guess from Wingate, maybe more so than Monroe, maybe some of the Monroe traffic. So I'll support the motion. I think that, it's a place to start, and then we find out what we can get in the longer term for a solution.
So I just want to confirm, will staff begin applying for grant funding or not with this motion?
Grant funding for what?
To introduce microtransit as a long-term solution?
No, what we would do with this direction from you is communicate to Wingate and Monroe the openness to consider in the future, and that we need more details, and it would direct us to honestly go out and get those details. We're going to really pay attention, and CATS has offered to share their experiences as they make this transition in northern Mecklenburg County, in Davidson, Huntersville, Cornelius, where they have existing circulator service that has also suffered in terms of ridership, and microtransit has evolved and matured as an option. They're going to be introducing it in the next year there, and we're going to learn from their experience, both in terms of performance, costs, service delivery, and be able to use that to refine any application we might put forth in the future at the request of Monroe and Wingate as partners to try and introduce that in Monroe and the immediately surrounding areas. So
Essentially, they'd have to come back to this board
Yeah.
and seek approval to actually apply for the grant.
If everything went perfect, it would be at least 2 years before you'd be in a position to actually implement a service.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have Cooperative Extension, Wingate University Teaching Garden Partnership. And Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here tonight to present a possible partnership between Union County and Wingate University. There are two gentlemen that are here that are going to help me present tonight. One is Jeff Frederick. He's the provost for Wingate University, and the other is Andrew Balcom, our Cooperative Extension Director. This presentation comes after several months' discussion with our Ag Advisory Board, Wingate University, Cooperative Extension, and some other community partners. So we felt like it was at a point to bring it to you all to get feedback and hopefully gain your support to move forward. Wingate recently started a food systems major, and Jeff will come up in just a minute to talk about what that major is and how they feel it'll help Union County. One of the major components of that program is to establish an educational farm. This is a hands-on lab where they can get students out in the dirt learning about agriculture in the field. We have identified about a 7 to 10 acre piece of property that's currently located on our Union County Ag Center facility. We have no current plans or long-term plans for this piece of property. Cooperative Extension has used this property in the past for similar activities to what is being proposed as part of this farm, but it is not by any means something we are going to put large capital investment into. The Union County Ag Advisory Board heard this presentation at their November meeting, and there was overwhelming support from them to support this initiative. Just to give you an idea of where this piece of property is, it is located to the west of the Ag Center, located in between the Ag Center and Brooks Farm Equipment. It is gently sloping down to a non-blue line stream, and Wingate feels that this, being close to the university, close to Cooperative Extension, is a prime site for what they're hoping to accomplish. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to talk a little bit about the program and what they're hoping to accomplish.
Thank you, Patrick. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Manager Matthews. Wingate University has launched a agricultural food systems degree, in part because we imagined a opening for us to fill an area for an interdisciplinary degree that would merge science and agriculture and business together, preparing workforce for North Carolina's most important, largest industry, and one that's critically and historically been important to Union County as well. This degree, like other Wingate undergraduate degrees, would fall into our similar model. Small class sizes, close working relationships with professors, no auditorium classes of any kind, hands-on active learning. And in the case, as Patrick mentioned a moment ago, a lot of field work, internships, project-based collaborations, particularly with our friends at Extension, but also trying to align a program in symmetry with what Union County Public Schools, the community college, and others are doing in the name of agriculture. The graduates that would come out of our undergraduate program, our 4-year degree, our bachelor's degree, would be able to manage their family farms, work in food policy, work in agribusiness, work in hospitality, food production, food processing, distribution, and everything in between, whatever that might mean 5, 10, 15 years from now as this industry continues to grow. Where are we at in terms of this stage of development? As I mentioned, we launched this August this degree program. So from 2020 to 2022, we spent a couple of years in various pursuits thinking about how we would stand this program up. How would we merge biology, but particularly agriculture and business together into a useful, practical degree? Our conversations included with Extension, with the food lab, with the public schools, with area growers, and then ultimately, as Mr. Nyland mentioned, reached a crescendo in November 22 with the unanimous resolution of support from the Ag Advisory Board in Union County. What we've been doing since 2022, we've hired a farm director and a program director. We've launched the curriculum. We've begun the process of recruiting students into this new program, and this led us to identify options for a campus teaching farm. Why is the farm important? The degree has to be practical. It can't be based in a classroom, in theory. It has to be practical. We have imagined that all of our undergraduate degrees are go and do and learn degrees, but this would perhaps be the best example of all of it. In short, we want our students to get their hands dirty over and over and over again so that they understand every stage of the food life cycle, from when the seed goes to ground to when it sits on a table or in a grocery store for someone to buy. So what is our request for you all? To give us some support moving toward a long-term lease for that small parcel of land that Patrick mentioned a minute ago, somewhere around 10 acres, adjacent again to agriculture and event complex, so that our partnership with Extension in the delivery of educational product, not only to our students, but to the Union County Public Schools, to the community college, to younger learners, so that we can use that for every means possible for agriculture. The lease would be for $1 a year, and the site is 4 minutes of drive timing, at least in my truck, from our campus. The partnership will allow us to train the workforce of the next 10, 20, and 30 years in a practical and wide-ranging manner, building on Union County's preeminent place in ag, and hopefully creating a ripple effect for other opportunities for learners of all ages. Again, no request for any financial or monetary support from the county other than the ability to lease the land and a written document that would allow us to use it for the educational purposes that we've described. Turn it over to Andrew to talk about the partnership and how this would be with extension, and then feel happy to answer any questions.
If you would like to stand up with Andrew, that's fine. He wants up now.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, respected board members, Manager Matthews. You can see on your screen the tentative layout of what we are proposing. There is a menagerie of items on this small acreage plot that will allow us to do a lot of different things, a lot of hands-on opportunities. In the closer to cultivation circle, we have small fruit orchards that back up into some riparian buffers, some annual production beds, things such as that. There is currently a line of mature cedar trees that are in the lowest point of the property. Those will be maintained for a habitat buffer. And then as you move up the hill on the backside of this spot, there will be some high tunnels, a vegetable packing house, as well as continued riparian areas, habitat buffers, and then a apiary. I will stress that this layout is tentative as we move forward in the process to determine the exact needs of the program, to determine what is capable of the site. We wanted to give you an idea this evening of these possibilities, and you can see from this diagram they are plentiful. I would like to add the benefit to the county here from the extension service side of things. As you all are aware, the extension service provides educational training and opportunities for agriculture, youth development, and food and nutrition for all residents of Union County and the surrounding areas. We work predominantly with Union County Public Schools. We have a massive volunteer base, and we have increasingly larger interest in small-scale agricultural production here in the county, to the extent that in 2 years ago, North Carolina Department of Agriculture did a survey that constituted a 260% increase in small farm production in Union County alone. This constitutes our continued importance of agriculture in the county as the third largest agricultural production county in the state of North Carolina. And so with our staff, we see this as a valuable resource to our office to be able to support not only our youth programming, to support the agricultural producers here in the county, and I would like to mention a wider diversity of agricultural producers here in the county than what we may have traditionally been most responsive to. And then lastly, we will be able to continue fostering educational outreach on the importance of healthy living. We continue to do this with young people, we do this with adults, and we are already currently doing this with Wingate University students. We've had our first internship from this program this past fall semester. And this student worked extensively with multiple members of our staff, worked with East Union Middle School and their agricultural program, who will also benefit from this due to their close proximity of the Ag Center to that middle school. And then as well as the continued Ag Technology program in the Forest Hills cluster that also includes Wingate Elementary that is just a short distance away. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, but I believe Patrick has one more slide for you as well.
And just to wrap up before there are any questions, no action is being requested tonight. The goal was to get this in front of you, address any concerns you all have, but really just to get the information to y'all. If there is support to move forward with this, a lease has been talked about, a long-term lease. The term we are talking about is 9 years, 11 months, and that's not by accident. The state considers anything over 10 years to be the sale of the land, so we don't want to get into that. There would also be no renewal in that. At the end of that term, if there is interest in renewing, we can begin negotiations at that point, but that is what the term of this lease would be, at least as a starting point. Obviously requesting feedback from the board. If we do move forward with this, the earliest you would see anything back to you all would be the second meeting in February to take action on that lease. So with that, we are available to answer any questions you all may have.
Commissioner Richard Helms?
Yeah, as we discussed, Patrick, I'm really in favor of the concept. What I heard tonight for the first time was a lease. I agree with the partnership, and I know you work well together, but I would expect that lease to be the partnership. That, in other words, there was a reference to a building, where's that going to go? Who owns the building? But, the thing about it is it's kind of like the Ag Center, the Simpson Center right now, Parks and Rec, and y'all work together. And that's what I'd like to see, because I think it's a program that would benefit Union County.
Commissioner Helms, what I would say is that in the lease, there is that partnership kind of built into there where the county and the university will be involved in those decisions because it'll still be county land. So we want to make sure that if anything is done out there, it's done in accordance with local zoning and what we want to see. So that is baked into that lease agreement.
Okay.
I too support this plan, but I have a legal question, because several years ago, Union County Public Schools had a $1 per year lease to the town of Fairview, and it was brought back to the schools that they could not do that. They could not do a lease for $1 per year. So Union County Public Schools had to start charging market rate to the town of Fairview, which wasn't in their budget. So my only concern is the $1 per year. We were told that we couldn't do that, and then that's the proposal tonight. So I just legally want to verify, which is it? Can we do it or can we not do it? Because just a few years ago, the schools were told that they could not charge $1 per year to the town of Fairview.
Sure.
If anyone could explain that to me.
I know I can't. Richard, I don't know if you want to take a shot at it, but if not, we can certainly get our general counsel to respond to that, because I know we do have leases with nonprofits for $1 a year because they provide a public service, and I think this would fall under that category. I will say that our legal team has drafted this lease with that dollar amount, but we can certainly get you that information.
The program, it absolutely is a wonderful program, something that Union County Public Schools with the Ag Tech Academy. I know this is extremely important, and we have so many students that are going into this field and expressing so much interest. So if we could just clarify,
absolutely,
this $1 per year, and why the town of Fairview could not continue paying their $1 per year and go outside of their budget.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Patrick, so I'm also inclined to support this as well. Question though, so Forest Hills and I believe East Union was mentioned as participating schools from Union County Public Schools. Is that correct? Or they would have some involvement there?
Yeah, they've been a part of the discussions in terms of interaction between our students and their students and how they might work together on projects both in our teaching farm and on theirs.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you. The Extension Service has a program that we run annually for every third grader within the Union County Public School system called Wake Up to Agriculture Week. Formerly, it was a singular day. Now it is happens over the course of a week in March, and that gives opportunity and access for all to come and be a part of this facility, to become more aware of the facility for those educators, their principals, and administration, which would then allow us to more so welcome those schools to that teaching farm as part of our extension and Wingate University partnership for it. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was exactly my point. is that I think it would be important to have involvement, system-wide, so throughout the school district. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, do you have any questions? Or?
I do not.
When I heard this, I'm really excited because I see a lot of potential here. There's not very many, more of the agriculture-related schools are in the eastern part of the state. Very few opportunities in the western part of the state for this kind of program. Also, the fact that SPCC partners with Wingate University in a program. Could you maybe explain that partnership that you have with SPCC?
Jeff, I'll let you.
Sure. We have a relationship called the Gateway Scholarship and a program called Road to Wingate to allow a student who starts at SPCC and finish to come to Wingate at a significantly reduced price. And the thought behind that is we want to be the #1 solution for Union County kids who are looking for a Union County home for all the credentials that they need for the rest of their life.
And what excited me about that is it's just like the program at East Union and Forest Hills, along with the agriculture programs all over Union County, from Weddington, Piedmont, other schools that are in the Sun Valley had a strong agriculture program. This is just a fit for Union County that could mean a lot. A kid who can't maybe afford a 4-year university like NC State, or going to a university that's a larger size, or needs to be at home to work on those farms that we're talking about, and be participating in the family farm. They have an opportunity to get that degree that they need, and with SPCC and Union County Public Schools possibly even have a partnership even to make that better. So the concept is wonderful, and I don't think that we have anybody in disagreement about the concept, and I think we just have some questions about the legalities. So I would like to make a motion that we, as a board, support the concept, and then bring back that information with the legalities discussed, and where we go from here, and how we can do it legally, and do it the best program that we can do it with the partnership with Union County Public Schools, SPCC, Wingate University. There's a whole lot of partners here: farm community, agricultural extension service, all those. So with that, any discussion on the motion? And the motion would be that we endorse the concept and ask for the information or the concerns that we had here today. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have discuss possible lease terms for Site B. And Brian Matthews, you've got the information on this.
Between Richard and I guess we'll try to muddle through this. So the board had discussions about having a lease agreement on property that we recently purchased on Ridge Road. And they instructed the attorney to discuss that with the property owner if he was interested on a portion of it, of that lease. He is. And now we're at the point where the board will need to give us direction on the lease terms. I believe we've given you some concepts or some components for you to keep in there. Of course, the term. How long do you want the term to be? Or do you want to establish what the uses will and will not be on the property? And various other lease components that I think that Mr. Long gave you a portion of. So at this point, it's really you guys giving us direction. What things do you want included in the lease terms, so then Richard can draft it, and then we can present that to the property owner. Richard, you may have the items. I don't have them in front of me, of which they might want to consider.
Well, I can certainly give you, I can take you down the list. So the first thing would be the term, and we've determined the term in your motion. The term was 9 years, 11 months. The rent was already determined in your prior motion of $3,000 per year. So the next question would be, the use of the premises. That would be something that you need to discuss. This is primarily a commercial operation. There is a house located thereon, and that would be one of the things you should discuss. And if you want to have that discussion and me walk you through the rest of the terms, it might be clearer for you, but I'll throw them all out there if you want.
Would you like, discussion on the commercial lease versus the residential lease? Or?
Well, realistically, there's a lot of things that, and without going into the legalities of it, there's a lot of things that the county is not in the business of residential leasing. And so I don't think that should be a proper consideration for this board.
So how would you like it done? Would you like a vote on each one, like a commercial lease? Would you like a motion and a vote?
Yes, I think that's going to be the easiest thing for y'all to do rather than throw it all out there. So on use, the question is should it be a commercial lease, and try to define the use, and you can define the use. The simplest way to define the use with this property is however it is zoned. It is in compliance with the existing zoning. That would be the simplest and easiest way to define that. But y'all can define it any way you want to. You can limit the use. You can say that it can be used for this purpose and not that purpose. Those are all matters that you can throw out there.
For example, then, if it's a commercial lease with no ability to sublease to any other parties?
Well, subleasing an assignment, it would be another provision of the lease in and of itself, yes.
Well, I'd make the motion that it be a commercial lease with no subleasing to any other entity.
Are we to get the information tonight, or give him some things we're interested in, and take our motions once he brings the lease back to us?
I think he's asking for the direction.
I'm asking you to give me the direction. Remember, the property owner or the tenant has not seen this, so this is going to be whatever y'all tell me to draft. We will propose that to the tenant. He may have that company may have a counteroffer. I don't know.
Okay. Well, that would be the motion would be a commercial lease with no sublease, and then we can move on to other items. Any discussion on the commercial versus other types of leases? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
3-2. Okay. Next, Richard.
The next provision that you should determine is whether or not there's going to be a termination provision in this lease. It is 9 years, 11 months. Is it going to be terminable at will, terminable on notice, terminable with a liquidated damages clause, broken down into a base lease with a renewal? All those are terms that could go under a termination provision.
I'd make the motion then that we do it for 9 years, 11 months, because of the type of crops that are going on there will be trees. It's not 1 year crops, so they're long-term crops. So the 9 year, 11 month lease would be not being able to be terminated by the county.
Would not be able to be terminated by the county?
By the county.
What you said?
Correct.
Why in the world would we want to lease property where we don't have any control whatsoever? The comment was made a while ago that the school system, were told they couldn't lease property other than market rate. Well, this is not market rate. Not even close. I mean, it didn't even market rate on the house, much less the 85 acres that goes with it.
I think it's extraordinarily bad idea not to have some robust termination clause in this lease with some reasonable period of notice. One of the issues I raised when this lease was first brought up for discussion was the likelihood that the ARPA funds that were used to acquire the property, this prior board unanimously gave assurances to the state over in terms of how the property would be used. It could be we find ourselves in a situation down the road where we very much need to exercise a termination clause. And I would add to that, not only do we need a robust termination clause, but we need a clause that for liquidated damages, where damages are limited to a particular amount defined in the lease. I cannot stress that strongly enough. I think those two terms should very much be in this kind of lease.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think one of the things too is, you mentioned trees. I don't think that, and I understand if they plant the trees, they don't plant them permanently, they grow them there. But you can destroy a piece of property where the value is gone if you strip the topsoil off. I think there should be limits in it that says that you can't take topsoil off, you can't take soil away from the property, and you cannot remove or sell trees on the property. In the sense that if you've got a group of pine forest, things like that, you can't cut the timber and sell it for timber. I understand growing, they take a tree ball and they put it over there and they grow it. That's their property. But no, it's this thing has got more things wrong with it than is imaginable.
And Commissioner Adams, I would say that as somebody who has worked in nursery landscaping and on tree farms and have my whole life, you replace the dirt with another dirt when you take the root ball out. So you're taking and removing the root ball. You have to put soil back in, better soil back in order to grow another tree there. So that's that root ball is not going forever. You bring back in topsoil to replace that. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the 9.5-year no termination clause by the county, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
3-2. All right, next, Richard.
Repairs and obligations to the property. That's going to primarily involve the structure that is on the property, that being the house.
And what's the request there?
Well, the real question is who's going to be responsible for it. And in a commercial lease, most commercial leases are what's known as either triple net leases or things of that nature. And a triple net lease means when you have a triple net lease, the tenant is responsible for all repairs, external, internal, responsible for the cost of any insurance on the property and the cost of the taxes. That would be a triple net lease. Now, that's obviously the county's not going to pay taxes on its own property. But repairs and obligations, the question is do we have any obligation to any of that property if something happens to it? If it burns down, whose responsibility is it? So those are questions that you should consider.
Okay. So would a motion be sufficient to say that Lucas Landscaping is to maintain insurance on the home and that they're responsible for any repairs? Is that what you're looking for?
Repairs, maintenance.
Repairs, maintenance, and costs associated with the resident on the property.
Right.
That's the motion. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
3-2.
Next would be alterations. Can they make any alterations to the property whatsoever? And that's, again, going to primarily be the structure that's on the property. But it could also be, it's 87 acres. Are you going to allow them to put in berms or anything like that on the property? Or do they maintain it in primarily the same, even though they may be able to use it for landscaping, are they going to be able to change the nature of the topography of the property?
Does that include, how much of the land is open?
Most of that land, the vast majority of that land is open. About 20 acres of that land is within the floodplain, as I recall.
Okay.
But it's farmable.
It's been, I think, in soybeans. So the motion would be that they cannot build any structures on the property, and that they cannot add ponds or things of that nature that drastically change the topography of the land. Do you good with that?
If you are, I am.
That's the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. 3-2.
Inspection and right of entry by the county, because it is still our property. The idea would be, when can we inspect the property? When can we come on to the property? Other issues would be if we needed to do any kind of testing or anything like that on the property, within giving the tenant reasonable notice that that's our intention, that should be something that should be discussed.
Okay, and I would say with that, we probably need the ability that, how many days' notice you think would be sufficient?
I think if you give them 48, at most 48 hours, 72 hours, you can do longer than that if you want. It's mostly open property, but again, you do have a structure in there. You may want to get in quicker than that to look at it.
Okay, but they're responsible for the maintenance of the structure?
Yes, sir. That's in your last motion.
Maintenance to what level?
They got to maintain it. The maintenance is they're going to do all maintenance on the property. If they do any alterations, at least in my mind, now this is me taking some liberties. In my mind, if they go in and put up a temporary wall or add a wall to that house, they got to put it back the way it was when they got it. They can't change it. We get it back the way we leased it to them.
So any structures around the home or any fences, any?
No foundations. If they put a greenhouse down there, they can't put a permanent foundation for the greenhouse or anything like that.
Okay.
Again, that would be something we would have to remove.
So again, no permanent structures. So make the motion that there add no permanent structures and it be returned to the county in the shape it is on when the lease is exercised. You had something else.
Right of entry. The idea was notice and
The right of entry is 48 hours, you said would be sufficient?
I think so.
With, I'd like to add something with approval of the board. Again, you don't want people going in with equipment and machinery running over plants and damaging trees. So I would add approval of the Board of County Commissioners to that, with approval of the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
3-2. All right. Any other items that you'd like to see?
Sure. Utilities, I'm assuming they're responsible for all utilities as a commercial lease would be?
Yes, Lucas Landscape will be responsible for all utilities on the property.
Okay. Liability is going to be a big one. And you should consider that the tenant is responsible for any and all, anything that happens on the property is the tenant's responsibility. And they need to maintain a certain level of insurance, naming the county as an additional insured.
Okay. You need a motion to, that Lucas Landscape will be responsible for, have we already voted on the utilities part? Is this part of that motion?
No, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I gave you two issues rather than one. So
Okay.
first would be utilities.
That they're responsible for the utilities and they're responsible for the insurance on the property, which would that not have been included on the commercial lease?
It would be, but it's different terms with them, and so you would want that tenant to be responsible for all liability out on the property.
Liability,
Except with the exception of
utilities.
gross negligence by the county.
Yep.
Okay.
So the tenant would be responsible for all liabilities and utilities on the property. And maintaining insurance with the county as an underwritten What's the word you want there?
You want them to maintain a certain level of insurance on the property. I would recommend no less than $1 million per
Occurrence.
property and $2 million per person per incident for both of those.
You got that now? That would be part of the motion. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 3-2. Any other items of concern?
The only other item I think you addressed was it was in your earlier motion that there was no, they could not assign nor sublease this property to anyone.
And that's been addressed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What about if they experience a bankrupt situation?
Most commercial leases have an insolvency or bankruptcy provision in there that can be an event of default. If you would like that in there, I'm happy to include that in that.
So you're going to include that if Lucas Landscaping has a bankruptcy, that it is considered default?
Yes, a breach of the lease.
Or going out of business?
Well, I think if they go out of if they were to go out of business, I mean, they've got to stay on the property, and if they go out of, the idea for 9 years and 11 months, I would think you would want them to give us notice that they're no longer going to be out there, and if they don't give us notice and they're not on the property, that again is a violation of a breach of the lease.
Well, you know, if they went out of business, being able to stay and use that house at that price is, I mean.
I think that, my interpretation would be the house comes with the 87 acres. They don't get to pick and choose.
I think it needs to be documented.
Okay.
So we need to have if they declare bankruptcy or go out of business, then that would end the lease on their part. How do you want that in a motion? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I can draft it for you.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 3-2. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Point of clarification, is it the board's willingness to allow for any studies or testing to be done for the property for a possible wastewater treatment plant in the future? Just point of clarification, because that wasn't clear.
We're currently going through a discharge permit study,
That's correct?
correct? And it's not been completed yet.
That's correct. Yeah, we don't have the answer back on that.
So that we would go through that on a case-by-case basis?
Certainly.
So we've almost completed, or the process has already begun for a discharge permit?
Yes, sir.
And if the discharge permit comes back and says we can't discharge,
Then it's done
it negates
anyway.
everything else. So,
Right.
So I would say that be on a case-by-case basis.
I just want to make sure that the lease allows for us to be able to have access to do that if the board so chooses to do that. And I just want to make that as a clarification. And Richard, I wasn't sure if the lease.
I think on the point of it, on the right of entry and the notice, that would be encompassed, but I can spell that out.
And I think you did put in there that the board would be responsible for making those
Right.
decisions. That's fine.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Okay.
One other, in response to Commissioner Helm's question is, I am assuming this is an all or nothing lease. They don't get to cherry pick. If they decide at the end of the day, all they want to use is the house, that's not the deal. Is that correct?
That's not the deal.
Okay.
No, if they decide that they don't want to, because they can't sublease,
Right.
and so it includes, it's an all-encompassing deal. It's the house and the land and
I
it's
have a
all
question.
encompassing.
How did we get to the value that you're putting on this lease?
I asked farmers in the area what was the prices they were getting for their land. Similar tract of land just up the creek got 0 for a year. I believe I heard the last number that the Lucases got was about $3,000 for a soybean lease. And that's
But you got a $1,000 to $2,000 house.
Yeah, I guess the same way we came up with the $300 a month lease that the prior board was willing to do.
That was just for the house.
Right, just for the house, yeah. But the house goes with the land, so.
Well, I'll make a motion that we reevaluate that and look at market value. And you can get an appraiser to give you market value, and because you're giving away county resources to do anything else.
Well, if you'll remember, the Lucases were under a threat of condemnation. When they sold that property, they had no interest in selling the property. And,
I disagree with that statement.
well, Mr. Lucas himself told me that he got a telephone call from an anonymous caller and said that his land was going to be condemned, and a vote the night that it was purchased. So Mr. Lucas was under the understanding that he had a condemnation pending. I'm under the understanding that there was a condemnation pending, and we probably shouldn't have bought the land when we did until we
That you
found out
voted
some more
for.
information. Do what?
That you voted to
No,
buy.
I didn't. It
Yeah,
was,
you did too.
No, I voted to not. I not voted, I said we need to put this off until the new board comes in, and that we decide where we're going to go with sewer plans for that area in the county. And we've not been reimbursed yet by the state, which means if we're never reimbursed by the state, then we're going to have to look at what we're going to do with that property, if we're going to sell it to somebody or if we're going to put it out for
You
bids.
can't if you lease it for 10 years.
Do what?
You can't, you're tying up
Well,
$5 million for 10
We'll
years.
know. So in 10 years, we'll know. But if the state doesn't pay us back, I can tell you where that money will probably come from. It'll be Union County
School
Public
systems.
Works. It'll be Union County Public Works. And then we're also looking at another $30-some million project that if the state goes back on their word on this one, which is being purchased for sewer land, and in 10 years, hopefully we'll have the money to build the sewer land. But if we don't, then we don't. Maybe the state can give us another $274 million to make that a reality. Any other concerns, Mr. Long?
I think I have enough to draft at least and have a conversation with Mr. Lucas's counsel.
All right. Okay, next is county manager comments.
I have none tonight, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Richard Helms.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to mention tonight, I want to again congratulate Ashley on her nuptials over the weekend. We're real happy for you, and so just say congratulations.
Commissioner David Williams.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Brian Helms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification. So at our last meeting, our December 19th meeting, Commissioner Richard Helms mentioned that he had a signed resolution that confirmed support of the former county manager and the direction that he was taking this county in his closing comments. It was insinuated that this resolution was drafted after this board took office on December 5th. As this is a matter of public record, I wanted to research this document for myself, so I asked for a copy of it and reviewed it. For clarification, the resolution Commissioner Helms referred to addresses economic growth, educational opportunities, and infrastructure expansion. It does not mention any current or former Union County staff by name or by title. Furthermore, this resolution was signed by an advisory board and different municipalities between July 12th and December 13th, 2022. That's a full 2.5 months before the current Board of Commissioners took office on December 5th. To suggest that this resolution was in opposition to any action taken by the current Board of Commissioners on or after December 5th, 2022 is not only irresponsible, is seemingly deceptive. The citizens of Union County and this board represents those citizens. They deserve honesty and transparency.
And that
Now-
was not accused of being after, it was before.
This is my turn for comments, Commissioner.
Okay.
I appreciate that we received tonight the information regarding Wingate University Teaching Garden. As many of you know, my grandfather taught agriculture in Union County Public School System for quite a few years. Provided that this program proves to be advantageous for the county, I'm excited to see what we can do with this and that partnership. And I commend our staff and Wingate University for bringing this to us. One final thought is that as we begin our new year, I think it's important that we reflect upon the past year and celebrate not only our successes, but also learn from our failures. A new year brings optimism that this year will be better than the last. Many families in our county have felt and are still feeling the strain of inflated prices at the grocery store and also the gas pumps. My family is one of those families too. But where there's struggle, there's also opportunity. I choose to be encouraged. I am encouraged by the people of Union County and the direction of our board. I am encouraged by the opportunity that we have before us to set aside personal differences and work together for the benefit of the people of Union County. And with that, I pray for God's blessing on all the residents of Union County in this new year and all the years to come. Thank you.
Vice Chair Melissa Merrill.
I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I look forward to continuing to serve Union County and working with this board.
Thank you. And I also wish to convey a happy new year to everyone. I'm excited about 2023 and what it may bring. There's been a lot of discussion in public on this dais and in other places about the leases, the value of a lease, and why would something happen with a lease that would lease for $3,000 a year. A lot of people in government, there's times that government has to take property, whether you're talking about building a road, putting in sewer lines, putting in water lines. There's times that it benefits more people by taking of that land, and that's why we have the condemnation powers. This board has always been hesitant to use those powers and trying to work out with the landowners what we can. The example tonight was Lucas Landscaping. And Lucas Landscaping, after many years of looking at a piece of property, Mr. Doug Lucas decided that he had saved up enough money to purchase this land to pass on this business to his children. And in that, he wanted to plant nursery and landscaping plants. And he purchased a house, and he did extensive remodeling on the house and made it worth more money by the remodeling that he did and the time and effort that his family put into it. The time and effort that a lot of people put in to properties that when they build their dream home, when they do something that they want to pass on to their kids, whether it be a farm, whether it be a shooting range, whatever it is. And instead, Mr. Lucas's plans were interrupted by Union County. And without very much, thought put into it, without the money in hand to build a $274 million sewer plant. So the action that we took was that we didn't have $274 million, and the rates, we weren't willing to raise the rates over the next foreseeable future to pay for a $274 million sewer plant. Therefore, the Lucases, whose business plans and opportunities to hire and create economic development in Union County were interrupted. If my home were purchased by the state at the threat of condemnation, or the county, or any place else, I would want to live there as long as I could. We have people that lived in homes all over Union County when the bypass was coming through. And that bypass took years and years and years to build. If those people had been kicked out of their homes under threat of condemnation and they wasn't able to live in those homes, then it would have been pretty upsetting to them to drive by their empty home every day thinking I could still live in my home. I could still live in that house that my grandfather built. So, you may hear a lot of grumbling, but just remember at the end of the day that this family, whether my fellow commissioners choose to remember it or not, had the threat of condemnation brought upon their decision to sell that land. They did not want to sell it for the price they sold it because they did not want to sell it. And that's the importance here, that a family can continue their business, can continue to hire people here in Union County until Union County can save up the money necessary, get the permits necessary, get the approvals necessary, get the U.S. Fish and Wildlife lawsuits or whatever else may come our way settled, and it's going to take years and years and years to accomplish that. I've tried to tell my fellow commissioners all through this process, this is not an easy process. It never has been. If it was an easy process, we'd be drinking water from Lake Tillery right now, but we are not drinking water from Lake Tillery right now. So, while some of you may not understand exactly why, understand that if your land was under threat of condemnation and Union County took it by condemnation, we could have had bulldozers on that land the next day, and you would be fighting us in court for many years. So rather than do that, we didn't. But that was the mistake of those who wanted to take this land and do with what they wanted to do with it. If they had those concerns and doubts, they could have taken that land by condemnation, and they could have put bulldozers on that land the next day, and this lease would have never come up. But for the next 10 years, it's going to be a process, a long and difficult process of trying to get anything approved. As you've heard, we don't even have the approval for a discharge permit today. But we're already talking about the state not giving us our money back. Well, they know the process takes a long time, so if they don't give us our money back for purchasing the land, then it's going to come out of Union County Public Works budget, because that's the problem, that's the issue. It's not a taxpayer issue. It's not an issue of something that you're going to have to worry about your taxes going up for. That money will come out of the budget for Union County Public Works. And maybe we can just sell it back to the Lucases after 9 years, 11 months, and they can continue on with that family dream that Mr. Lucas has had for 15 years. But I would hope that each of you understand that I would give you the same respect that we have shown to the Lucas family here today. We should not have purchased this land. We did not have to purchase this land. We could have waited until we got our permits. We could have worked with the Lucases. And the prior board decided that they didn't want to do that. Their mistake was not going a step further and putting it under condemnation. Now we've corrected that mistake. And the Lucases can use that land for 9 years and 11 months to follow the dream and hire people in Union County and contribute to the economic development that they plan to contribute to anyway. So with that, I wish everyone a good night and a motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?